If you voted yesterday in Nebraska, you voted for a series of different ballot initiatives. Two of those focused on abortion, so we want to break those down for you here right now. Our Brian Mastry put it very simply yesterday. Initiative 434 focused on restrictions, 439 focused on rights. So we do want to break this down. Now, earlier in this morning, once the votes started to come in, that race was called in favor of 434. So that enshrines that 12-week abortion ban into Nebraska's law. Now, when we take a look at this, let's look at our viewing area here. You can see the major metro areas, Douglas County, Lancaster County. Those are focusing a little bit more on voting no for 434, but our rural counties outside of that, they voted in favor for that. Let's take a look at 439. That was the other initiative again. So you can see those colors, they flip. Those metro areas again, voting more in favor for 439 as opposed to 434, but the more rural areas voting no for 439. Taking a look specifically at Douglas County too, you can see here 61.3% in favor, 38.7% not in favor for 439. But when you switch it over to 434, 45 yes, 55 Nebraska, no. You would have voted on some initiatives that were focusing on medical marijuana. So we want to break these down for you and take a look at these initiatives. Initiative 437, this was focusing on legalizing marijuana. 438, focusing on regulating it. Now, we got these results in pretty early into the night. Last night, once those votes were starting to come in, overwhelmingly, these are voting in favor. We can take a closer look here at our viewing area, and you see with our heat map, these metro areas, Douglas County, Lancaster County, Sarpy County, a very large majority of people voting in favor of 437 and 438 too. Douglas County specifically, take a look, 80.2% of people voting in favor for 437. Let's take a look here at 438 as well. Douglas County, a little bit less, but still that majority, 76%. Results that are still coming in from NBC and AP News. They still have not called some of the key races. Michigan votes still outstanding, Arizona, Nevada. But of course, as we know now, Donald Trump will be the president-elect with 277. But of course, we've been talking this whole election season about those key battleground states. You see them lit up here in yellow. But let's take a look here and talk about our states that we are still waiting on. Again, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada. Let's try and pull this up here and take a look at those closer key states. So when we look at what the vote totals are looking up right now, Arizona, 60% of the total estimated vote in. Michigan, 97%. So they're probably going to be pretty close to calling that one as well. Nevada, 84%. Still waiting to get those final totals in on those key races. And over here at the touchboard, we want to take one final look at that Electoral College map before we go. As you can see, there are still some states coming in, but of course, as we know, the race has been called for Donald Trump. Let's take a look back at these numbers and how they compare to the last two presidential elections. What we are seeing, a big story here, is that many of these states that are going one way or the other, they're falling back to trends that we saw in 2016. But then when you compare that to 2020, you're going to see those states, a lot of them were red in 2016, flipped to blue in 2020, are now flipped back 2024. Some of those to call out, of course, Pennsylvania, Georgia, some big battlegrounds there that were the deciding factor in this election. Over here at the touchboard, we do want to take a quick look at our presidential electoral map. Now, since our updates coming in at daybreak, still those key races in those battleground states, Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, those have not been called. We're still waiting on 2 electoral votes out of Maine, 3 in Alaska as well. But we are now being able to examine those election trends. Now, some things that are coming up out of exit polls, Latinos surging dramatically, swinging towards Trump. 25 points more, actually, when you look at the map compared to how he did in 2020. And those gains really made a big difference when you look at some of those key counties in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, also in Arizona. Of course, they're still counting that vote, but that's what they're seeing there right now. On Harris's side, she saw a lot of gains when it came to white women and college graduates. Trump carried that group 11 points in 2020. That gap now is narrowed by about 5 points here in 2024. And we mentioned it right at the top of midday too. This election was going to be historic either way, but with Trump being named the president-elect, he will be the first person since Grover Cleveland in the election of 1892 to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Cerise.